So good morning, everyone. I am Laura Matukaitė, Media and Communication Manager at Career Community. Welcome to today's physical panel and CC-Webinar live session on the topic of messaging market today and tomorrow. We would like to thank Twillio for sponsoring our webinar and Thomas for sharing his presentation with us today. We would also like to thank Eric von Stockholm, CEO of VSC, for moderating this session, and panelists Fabrizio, Dario, and Andre for participating. Alexei for participating. Now I would like to ask Vida Schmidt, our CEO, to give you a welcome speech.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning, good afternoon, CC members, partners, friends. Hope you had a safe trip and good start today for those who are sitting here in Berlin at Ritz-Carlton. And for those who are joining us virtually, I hope you're all in good health. On behalf of CC team, I would like to welcome you all, both here in Berlin, as well as virtually joining today's session, and the first CC events live in post-pandemic time in Berlin, the CC Messaging Summit 2020. Thank you sincerely to all our official partner sponsors and of course members for their trust and support to make it happen successfully together. Despite the past challenging 6 months with fear, uncertainties, CC team stayed focused, committed, innovative, and launched successfully not only the CC-Webinar.live platform, but also reached a new milestone, organizing the first hybrid CC events, both live in Berlin and enabling members to join today even from around the globe virtually. With all your support, we would not have managed it. And without it, we wouldn't have managed it. So with your support, we did it. So thank you again. We are very happy that those members and partners who could not join us today physically due to the travel restrictions have the opportunity to join today from their home, from their offices, from their countries. Once again, we showed that together we are stronger and can make it. Special thanks goes to Twillio for sponsoring this hybrid session, and Thomas, thanks for joining. And we are looking forward to watch and listen to your interesting presentation later. Thank you, Eric, for being with us today. Thank you, Fabrizio, as well today. And of course, Alexei, thanks for joining, and Dario remotely. And of course, taking your time and effort to share your insight and knowledge with all of us. I wish you all a successful session and CC Messaging Summit, and hope to see you at future CC events and Webinar Live platform. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. Those who are joining virtually, and Berlin, we still have 2 days to meet and say goodbye. So thank you, and now over to you, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Vida. Just let me switch into presentation mode. This should be looking good. Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks for the introductory words. Of course, I personally would like to be in Berlin now, but as you said, there are travel restrictions, and I think it's great to see everyone. Without further ado, I guess I will provide us with a quick introduction on messaging, API-based messaging within the next 50 minutes. My name is Thomas Buller. I'm running SE teams for Twillio within DACH, rest of Europe, emerging, and France. Before I dig into the topics, quick legal disclaimer, we're a public company, so I think have a close look at the forward-looking statements, and I think this is something which we need to take into context here. Okay, now into the topic. So we're in 2020, we're talking about messaging. I think if you look at the GSM standards, this has been developed during the 80s, and I think the first message, the first text message has been sent in 1992, so I think it's 28 years in the past, and we're still talking about messaging. And to put this into context, question is, what do customers expect today? Of course, they expect the right message, not any spam or something like that, on their preferred channel. So I think we do not only have the phone or email as a channel, there's much more in the meantime. The other thing is, of course, they do not want to have some kind of unidirectional message. Of course, they want to be addressed appropriately during the whole stage of a customer's journey. So just when you get interest, when you collect information, when you go into a purchase, or later on, or if you have a product, you may want to get notifications, you have questions where you want to pick up on. And of course, preferably in any part of the world. Usually in the past we were traveling. Now, of course, we are globally distributed and have to communicate via certain means. So I think this is the current context which we have. The other thing is consumers are 2.5 times more likely to prefer text messages when it comes to urgent things. I think if you think of all of us, if we maybe go on PTO, usually you're not 100% on PTO, you tell your colleagues, if there's something urgent, please text me, because you don't start reading your emails, other things, but usually text messages will reach you at any case. And of course, the same happens if you, for instance, have an IT outage or something like that. If you want to get a notification, you definitely want to have it via text messaging. The other interesting piece of data is that 82% of the customers still keep SMS notifications switched on. Of course, we all have our digital friends here, so I think this is something where you get swamped with messages or with notifications. What do you usually do? You switch off a lot of notifications, but in most of the cases, you keep SMS notifications or iMessage or iMessages switched on. I think that's a very good part of it. I just looked into some statistics of our system. So last year we sent 54 billion messages about on our systems to 170,000 to customers. So I think there's still something on it. The other important piece here really is if you want to send messages around the world, it needs to be reliable. And to do this reliably is challenging. So I think that's certainly a case. Maybe if you've been in the US or other parts, you used your local phones, started sending messages, and you were astonished because maybe some of your colleagues didn't get the notification for an appointment or something like that. And whilst you were going on the plane, you just got a lot of incoming messages. So I think that's something which certainly is important. So if you want to set up something like this, you certainly need to be able to get the right carriers. So you have to, if you want to do it as an enterprise by yourself, you have to get a network of carriers. Once you have set this up, of course, you need to build in technology in order to make sure that you have the SMS gateways and so on in place. The other thing which is important here is you need to have the teams doing the maintenance and, of course, keeping the lights on, make it up and running. When you have issues, you need to understand how to raise points and get the issues addressed. And of course, if there are mergers, acquisitions coming in, you suddenly maybe are into different legal frameworks. I think a keyword here is GDPR, others, where you need to deal with. And of course, sometimes if you are sending messages into different countries, you have to be well aware of the rules and, of course, the content and keywords you need to have into that. I think this is something which certainly is an important point in that. The other thing is, of course, we're talking here about the context of A2P messaging, so application to person messages. And of course, preferably this is programming or programmable, which means that you can integrate this into applications. So one good reason to do this is to use it for marketing, for promotions, loyalty programs, user engagement. Another big piece of this cake is verification, which means that you have user verifications during sign-up or later on for two-factor authentication. Little example here, if you look at a normal bank who wants to sign up, or an online bank who wants to sign up customers, you have a certain amount of money you can make per year per customer. And of course, the sign-up process costs money. And you need to be very sure that it is working out, because if you lose a customer during the sign-up, you lose money. So I think this is something where you need to have reliable messaging. Notifications are very important. I was talking about a couple of possibilities. If you have IT, if you have an outage, you want to know that something goes wrong. Or even of course, once we are back to flying and traveling, you want to know whether you have a delay on your flight or a gate change. You know that if the battery is low, you're careful with applications, but an SMS always comes through. And of course, later on, you want to go maybe towards conversations, which means that you get a notification and maybe you reply on that. So I think not quite sure whether you ever tried to reply on a text message you have received from a company. Good thing is if you can react on this, and of course, if you can pick up the ball again, make the things work and keep the conversation running. So I think that's very important. You have the opportunity of reaching billions of people with application to personal messaging. That's important. Of course, how can you gain this reach? How can you do this reliably? And of course, how can you provide a good developer experience? Because in the end, if you work with programmable messaging, you need to have the developers to make this work. So I think this needs to be easy and it needs to be secure on the other side. Of course, if you want to reach or get global reach for a global business, you need to have maybe something like one-stop shopping. So what we do, for instance, with Twillio is we've got something which is called Super Network, which is a layer underneath all of our services. So where we deal with local carriers, where we have the local contracts, which is completely transparent to the users, which means that, of course, if something doesn't work, we easily can swap the carrier without making trouble for the user and the customer. So I think this is something which certainly provides big advantage. Good carriers stay, bad carriers are being moved out in this case. The other thing which is important here is SMS messaging works in a lot of cases, but of course there are certain preferences in different countries where we of course need to deal with this. So of course, if there's areas where you're better off with Facebook Messenger or for instance WhatsApp, you have to be able to connect this. And I think this is certainly an important part of the whole game so that you have different directions and routes to deal with this. The other thing is when you take messaging and network considerations and look at the capabilities and of course the requirements you need to put in there. Of course, one thing is you need to have a fully programmable solution and you need to have a foundation of a global network, because this needs to be completely customizable, as mentioned before, with different channels. You need to have intelligent tools and API capabilities for message routing. So if a message comes in, what do you do with this? Do you put this, for instance, into a contact center to deal with it, to pull up data which maybe connects the message to a user and then, of course, creates the right content? Or do you want to trigger an action on this? Of course, global coverage means that you have a global telephony team which is taking care of this and keeps the lights on, helps you if something goes wrong. The other thing which is important here is you need to have a developer-first communications platform in order to enable the people who make it work. So we provide a lot of documentations and quick starts in different programming languages to make it as easy as possible. The other thing which is important is insights and tooling. So if you work with this, you need to understand how effective are my activities. Of course, do I have a means for fraud prevention and of course keyword searches in order to make sure that I'm compliant in this context. The other thing is, of course, are there any hints to improve the whole behavior of the system? And of course, the other thing is a platform approach. Messaging is the right thing, but in other cases you have to have a deviation on voice and on, of course, other technologies, other messaging technologies in order to keep the contact up with the customer. The other thing which is important is, of course, how do you deal with messaging across the different stages of a customer lifecycle? Of course, initial thing is to create interest, to, of course, promote certain offerings. The other thing is you want to help the people during product selection. Then, of course, there's the post-purchase thing. One thing is maybe there's a question, you want to apply a promotion code, or you want to notify the people in order to make sure that there's a software upgrade or anything else coming. Of course, anything which can improve customer satisfaction certainly is a good thing to do. And the other piece certainly is value-added services, as said, notifications, alerting, other things which you can achieve. And this is, of course, a good part of having a programmable environment, which makes these things very easy. If we look at the future of messaging, how can it further develop? I think I've been mentioning initially, have you ever tried to answer on a text message you have received from a company? I think you need to put this into a conversational context. So I think the other side always should be able to understand who is answering, how is this working, and how can I connect this to other services. Next step is to have a feature-rich environment. It can start with a text, but at a certain point in time, maybe you want to talk to someone, or maybe you want to have a video conference in order to discuss something, or maybe have a closer look at a product sample. The other thing certainly is it needs to be trusted. So I think you need to make sure that your messages are delivered so that you're not ending up in some kind of fraud or spam environment. The other thing is, of course, you want to act globally, you need to have some kind of local touch. So I think you're much more likely to pick up a message if it comes from a telephone number around you. Of course, you can use alpha codes in some other areas. So I think this is really the context we're moving in. Of course, if we talk about the future of messaging, this is something which we have to take into consideration. I think, Eric, I'm very close to my 15 minutes, and I think we have a very interesting conversation up front. So I think over to you, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. It was a pleasure listening to you, and thank you for sharing the thoughts and ideas. Now, I have a question actually. Where do you see? I mean, you just told us a little bit about the future, but where do you see the challenges of the future and the upcoming future?
In terms of messaging or in general?
Yes, no. In terms of messaging.
I think, as mentioned, so of course it's still a big piece. We're sending 54 billion messages per year. There's a couple of developments. One thing is, of course, there's new technologies in front of the door. I guess we'll be talking about RCS. I think that's something which will be interesting. Of course, in some areas you have preferences on different means. For instance, in countries where text messages are heavily regulated or extremely expensive. So I think if you look at the success of certain kinds of messengers, WhatsApp, Line, others, Telegram. I think that's something which needs to be taken into consideration. Of course, you need to extend the circle where you can apply messaging. Of course, this certainly is part of it. So you need to have something which can connect the dots between the different types of messaging. Of course, there's a development, there will be different preferences, and you need to have an address to put this under the umbrella of programmable messaging.
Okay, thank you. Quite clear. So again, after Laura and Rita, welcome everybody here in Berlin, and hi to all of you out there around the world. Thank you for joining here in Berlin. We have a panel discussion. We're going to discuss the messaging world. Let's say what's going on today, what's going on tomorrow, what we think will happen tomorrow. I cannot do this alone. So I need some special guests and some subject matter experts in this market, which I'm very happy and proud to have around me. So I'll give them a quick second to introduce themselves, and maybe Fabrizio, if you would start, and then over to Alexei.
Thank you very much, Eric, also for the opportunity to be on this panel. My name is Fabrizio. I'm the CEO of Horizon. We are doing messaging platforms, so we are enabling companies to enter into this market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alexei?
Hello, I'm Alexei. I'm CEO of Flank Telecom, which is a carrier and an aggregator, the messaging aggregator.
Okay, thank you. Dario?
Hello, everybody. From Dario Vitti. I'm the CEO of the Mobile Ecosystem Forum, a not-for-profit trade association which represents the vast world of mobile, including the aggregators, the carriers, the banks, and everybody in between that are working to bring messages and voice and all the data services to you.
So everybody you're serving, you're saying, right?
It's a very, very broad church.
Okay.
Even you, Eric. You
Exactly. So thank you, Dario. I know you're in Firenze in Italy, so you must enjoy the beautiful weather, right?
It is. I'm not allowed to say much about the web app.
Thank you. Thomas, last one, just a quick one. We heard you already, but please.
Okay, repeat. So I think thanks for having me. So I'm with Twillio. I'm running the solutions engineering teams in parts of Europe, which is DACH, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland, France, and something which we call rest of Europe emerging. So everything from Estonia down to South Africa and to the Chinese border. So it's quite a big region.
Okay, thank you, Thomas, and thank you everybody here and out there. Talking about the messaging market and where we stand today. I mean, it's inevitable to at least address it even shortly, but we are in warring times. Okay, facing and experiencing everybody around the world actually this the COVID-19 SARS-2 virus. Has an impact on everybody and on the world, and especially as well on telecom, negative-wise, but also positive-wise. So, Alexei, I know you're based in St. Petersburg in Russia. What can you say about, let's say, in relations to the messaging landscape within, let's say, your hemisphere? What can you tell us about it? What's going on? What's going on?
With the messaging in general?
Yes.
Well, on the hemisphere, it's, I think, pretty much following the global trends. I don't think there is anything so special here. As for the challenges, let's say, that I see in messaging and that we see in Link, they're definitely, I think, Twillio, and correct me, Thomas, if I'm wrong, but you coming from the technology side, and then you're using messaging as to find the right channel to communicate with the customer. But we are coming from a different world, different mindset, like from a carrier. And now I think we have, and we are actually transforming more to the technology company when it comes to the messaging, because to be able to operate in the messaging, you really need to be able to be integrated in all kinds of enterprises, APIs, and CRMs, and because we started as a very aggregator, right? And now we have to be more and more technologically advanced, I would say. And this is what is the main challenge for the company. And in general, I think I fully agree that it is transforming, and there are more and more requirements for the alternative communication, for the all kinds of a more intelligent two-way communication with the customers from the enterprises. And as well, I see a problem. The A2P messaging is actually, I think the market is changing, and the price for the A2P messaging is increasing during the last years. A part of it is because the carriers are investing in the firewalls that would help to protect their networks from fraud. But then the next obvious or not obvious, but the next step could be that when they feel that they're in control of their networks, they want to use it and enjoy it, increasing the pricing, which actually I believe influences the market a lot, the SMS market a lot. And this is pushing the enterprises to, as well as that they're always looking for the better customer experience, but as well they are looking to optimize the cost of the communication.
Logically, okay. Thank you, Dario. Do you see, because Alexei was actually talking about, let's say, from the trends he sees. Do you agree with Alexei? I mean, you from the Mobile Eco Forum. I mean, you have sort of, let's say, the helicopter view as well. So, what do you see? What trends do you see around you?
Well, I think both Thomas and Alexei have covered some important elements, and some of them being, I would call it a professionalization. Well, I managed to say the word in one go. Professionalization of the environment. We started, well, 20 years ago, almost to say, and it was a very small cottage industry. Now we got big, huge company, large aggregator, marketing communication company, really providing services that are of higher quality. Now, that's a good and a complex thing. So we need, everybody needs to, increase the game a bit, the level, and that's not easy. And we need to bring the entire industry. Some of the bad practices that were in the past needs to go away. And I know that Alexei has been working hard on that, and some of large companies, such as Twillio as well, have done it. Fabrizio, you've got a great, you should ask all of those questions to them. They've been working on those stuff. Now, on the other side of what MEF can see, we would talk to the consumers and the business as well. Let's start with the businesses. So I think there's a good trend, which is the discovery of a potential of the communications. Both A2P and P2A are just, it's just coming to the business. Surprisingly, the potential of what you can do with it has never been fully understood. So let's look at the carriers and the different aggregators. We've asked 155 companies to participate in a business confidence index. The majority of them, about 70 to 80 were about the A2P market. The surprising for us element is how positive the world seems to be looking at Q4. Already Q3 was the quarter when things were starting to, again, so much of the industry was still active during the lockdown. But about, I think, for 57% of those companies expect a further increase of revenues, and 20% stable. So we're talking about a very, very healthy sector in overall. Yes. Surprising for us how good the crisis has been for some of the players. Not all have had the same success and luck. The second part is the user. So we asked how many users worldwide, and we did some evaluations, are receiving text messages from businesses, and it's 2.1 billion people. It's a lot of people. And already this is successful. This is a big event. This is a big, this is a big market you're talking about. But look at how many people are receiving SMS messages and text messages. That's also over 3 billion. So there's an additional potential. And you do have to include GDPR and other things, but that already is another big potential. So try to be coincide. I think there is a lot that is happening in terms of the improving of the overall delivery and technology behind it, but there is also great potential in getting more people out there, more companies using these services. So despite the pain, which I understand, Alexei, there's a lot of pain and different in pricing as well. There's going to be a bit more of ups and downs. There is a lot can be done in the industry, and so we're quite positive about what's happening.
Thank you, Dario. Fabrizio, do you see the same trends? And also the second question for you would be, because Alexei pinpointed a little bit as well on, let's say, the platforms and the technology and so on. And I know that you with Horizons are very deep into this topic, especially on the platforms as well. So actually, two questions for you. Do you see, let's say, the same trends around you? And maybe you can say something about what you see about trends, whether it's like on the technology side.
Yeah.
Okay. Developments which are within.
So I understand very well the problem what Alexei is facing. So he's turning from being an aggregator, moving traffic into a technology company, because there is really a wave of different technology coming to a company. And that's actually exactly what we do. We build technology so that we put away the headache. So we just provide you with the right technology so that you can focus on your business. Mm-hmm. This is exactly what we were seeing years ago and where we are focusing. In our industry, we have been all used, because there were no vendors like us, that everybody built their own gateway. So all of a sudden you built something for messaging, for SMS, and now you have other channels like Telegram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and so on. And the problem is actually that, or let's say like that, we should enjoy the time we are living today, because we will never again have as little amount of different messengers like today.
Is it becoming more complex?
Of course, of course. I mean, look at the youngsters. I mean, they are highly loyal for a channel. I mean, kids, maybe they snap. I never saw any slide where a Snapchat appears, but there are millions of users there. Yeah. Just as an example, we don't know if they will open the API, but this is actually what we are challenging very much. So, yeah, it will be tough to bring all in the development of a platform. And the other challenge, what I see is actually, if we, which are in this industry, we are trying, you know, to bring all these pieces together, and sometimes even we have, you know, difficulties to bring them on one platform.
I was about to say, you must face huge challenges.
Yeah, but I think we have another part of it. It's who will buy the services. Mm-hmm. Now we have a missionary problem, you know, because we have to go out and we have to explain all the possibilities. I mean, not all the world has developers. I mean, not all companies have developers which just buys an API and use the API and then they build their service. So think about the millions and zillions of marketing managers which have no developers at their hand. So
do they have a clue?
Yeah, that's exactly the thing. You know, now they don't have. I mean, you have now to explain them what is possible. You know, otherwise, look, we are technicians. The marketeers are the creative ones. You know, they think about all the very nice services, what you can do with messaging. Okay, Thomas made very nice examples, what you can do, let's say, with SMS. But what if the content gets richer? And if you are the marketing manager of Nike, you have completely all of you, if you are the different communication programs, if you are the marketing manager of BMW, you know, so the use case will be completely different. And I think that will be very challenging, but it shows also how big the market will be. So we will still have to run and try to follow all trends of messengers. And that's, you were talking, your second part of the question about the future, which direction it will go. Well, the direction is clear. There will coming more and more messengers, even private ones. Imagine you are a governmental institution with, I don't know, 20,000 employees. Do you want that they use WhatsApp, Telegram, or whatever, or do they maybe start to use their own private messenger? Okay, then if they use the private one, how you address them, how you broadcast to this 20,000.
How secure is it?
Yeah, well, if it's on-prem and the private messenger, it should be pretty secure. But do you trust what is, let's say, in the clouds? You know, even if it's encrypted and everything. So it's challenging, but the challenge also brings a lot of opportunity. And I really think that we are in the beginning of this decade of something really, really big. And sometimes I have also the impression, also when we talk with other companies, they say, oh, are we too late with this market, or it's already gone? Well, they're all kind of in panic mode, but that's just our industry, which is like saying, hey, now you have to jump on this train. But hey, we have 10 years time. We will have a lot to do the next 10 years. So my message to you guys, don't panic, you know, just go into it, think well, and we will have 10 years of really nice revenues to do. So take the challenges and turn them to an opportunity.
Okay. Thomas, do you see the same?
I think it's very nice to hear this. I think we have a lot of opportunity in front of us, and I think it's again, I think I heard the names like Nike and BMW. Of course, they're different in what they want to achieve, but I think that's the nice thing about today's opportunities, because anyone is able to define his customer journey and map this on, of course, different means of communications, especially with the new normal we have at the moment. So we have to completely rethink how we address things. And we did a study in between to see how digital engagement is looking nowadays. And I think we have realized that COVID has been some kind of digital accelerant of the decade, which means that business have to redefine themselves. They have to find the right communications channels to deal with their potential customers. And I think there's plenty of opportunity in that. So I think I 100% agree that there's a lot of opportunity in front of us for the ones who are willing to do this. Yeah.
Okay, Alexei, I mean, do you see the same? I mean, are you transforming your company as well, as you mentioned before, but more, let's say, into the to make sure that you're ready for the future. But what Thomas just mentioned, that and Fabrice as well, do you see that there is now, let's say, a run? Let's say, is there more a demand from your customers coming to you, coming to Lang? Where they're getting a little bit nervous that they still want to have a piece of the pie, or are they, let's say, quite calm and they need far more education to see what the possibilities can be?
Well, I would say it's more that they're always expecting us to educate them about more possibilities, and I would say I fully share the optimism about the industry and the possibility. It's really interesting, and a lot of opportunities are on this market, and I do agree that at least next 10 years it's a great place to be. There is one thing as well I would like to emphasize that Eric, you have mentioned, is the security. Because the development of and this is a very important point, and this is one of the things that
critical, I guess, right? It's critical.
That our customers are expecting from us, is that we will protect them as well. And I believe with the development of the messaging, well, it is already quite a lot of types of the fraud activities going on, but
are they happy to pay for it
with
as well?
I do believe so. Yes, I do believe so. This is an additional service we have to be thinking about, and when we are offering new types of communication, of reaching the users, we always have to think on the security of the channel, and we need to ensure the protection of the brands, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Dario, do you expect, let's say, because if we are changing, I mean, Fabrizio was mentioning it, and we all agree on it, and that I mean, the messaging market is changing. It's changing rapidly. I mean, we need to educate. We need to make sure that it's secure. We need all the pillars should be there. But how do you see, for instance, that that even if Fabrizio says, guys, easy, we still have the time, and let's do it right instead of, you know, bumping into it again and having the hiccups, think twice, because we do have the time. But what do you foresee, let's say, in the future? Well, what do you see? And what are maybe some challenges we will be facing?
Yeah, I guess I was very positive and still am on the potential of the market. As we were saying, this attempt to improve the market and the technology behind it is going to be a big effort. Additionally, I think the big effort omnichannel was mentioned is to get the SMEs on board. I think that's already given a lot of results, actually. We've seen a dentist and somebody else being able to implement a simple reminder and saving a lot of money and a lot of time by using the power of communications. But I think that potential, that market is largely to be discovered. That means new tools, new communication, new discussions on how to make it real and feasible for somebody that doesn't have sometimes the big cloud integrations with the CRM services that some of the medium to large companies have. So I think the themes that I'm going forward is there is a great potential out there. Nothing comes for free. And the industry has to work very hard to get the great potential. It's not going to be served.
Invest a huge amount of money.
But the prize is so big, and the interest from the entire industry, and I'm saying the industry, not just like the carrier, but you know, I'm happy that Alexei mentioned trust. That's something that MEF we really, you know, do a lot of work, and for some countries we even manage some services to avoid that some of the bad things are not happening. But some of the brands are happy to invest money and say, please take away some of these horrible things happening, the phishing attacks, and that's just to mention one of them. And so seriously, there's a lot more that needs to be done around the size, because none of these is a gift that keeps on giving by itself. We need to protect the channels, because it's right, it's not just SMS. SMS is a universal channel, but there are many others that are coming. And some of them have suffered a lot. I mean, I'm taking WeChat probably as an example, which has really suffered a lot from the fact that it was completely available to everybody, and it was destroyed almost in its early stages by the amount of spam that came out of it. So spam, fraud, and ease of use of the channels, all of this needs to be taken into consideration. So here we go. You're right. There is a bit more pain to go through, but there's a great reward. So I think we can all agree that we need to be vigilant. We need to be interested and cooperate with each other to make sure that these things happen, and compete happily with each other, I'm sure.
Oh, that's always healthy, and that's always good. So I do see on the screen, because we like to do this interactive as possible around the globe, whatever we can do here, over there, everywhere. So I see, let's say there is some comments on the chat. I'm not sure if we can visualize that. There are no questions on the chat. Are there any questions from the audience? Guys, good morning. Or is everything clear and clear what these experts are telling me? Is it? Fantastic. So Thomas, do you agree with the guys that it will be challenging, but the future looks bright? I'm not promoting here any brand. But
challenges are important to drive us forward, and I think that's certainly an important piece. The other thing is, of course, that's the beauty of the API. So we take off a lot of the complexity behind the usage or the potential usage of these routes to the customer, which means that we, of course, can easily implement security measures, fraud prevention. Of course, we can do lookups in order to make sure whether there's any kind of reputational issue with sender messages. The other thing which is important, to give you an example, I think we did at about or north of 127,000 software rollouts last year in order to deal with changes, add features and functionality. But this is completely transparent to the user of the API. So I think this is something which goes along with our idea of democratizing communications. So I think a developer can unlock a lot of things. And I think as mentioned by Dario, I think this even opens up opportunities for the small SME around the corner to use this, because the complexity is hidden from the user, and of course this as well makes use of a lot of security measures. So I think that's certainly the big opportunity which we have for the next years.
okay, Alexei, you're going through changes. You mentioned with Lanka, and you're addressing it in the right time, as we know. Any big strategy change on your side?
Well, I would say yes, we are going through the change, but we've been always going through some kind of a changes. And
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of our industry.
it
right?
is. It is. Yeah, it makes it actually exciting to be here. But the strategic focus, I would say, as we have in voice and in all other services, would be the probably we need to concentrate with the experience we have from on the fraud protection and on the security, because this is something probably we could add from our experience to the products and to the demands that are in the industry.
Yeah, that's a biggie. Looking at the time, guys, Fabrizio, do you have any famous last words? Yes.
Eric, we have one question from our online audience, so I'm just going to show it on screen.
Let it come in.
Mark is asking, what are the panelists' thoughts on effective m-commerce for messaging? So if you can discuss that, guys.
Of course. So guys, what?
You want to read it again?
Yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay. So what are your thoughts, guys, on the effective m-commerce through messaging? So Thomas, maybe? I mean, kick it in. It was 1-0 yesterday evening, so you can make 2-0.
Yeah, that's the thing to do, of course. How to design it effectively, of course, is a question of you and your marketing team to define the success criteria. And of course, messaging APIs help you to put this into reality. And of course, you need to take certainly different communications channels into consideration and add opportunities to interact, so to go to a conversational setup in this. But it's in your hands, and of course it can be realized easily with the right combination of API technologies.
Okay, but you make sure that you educate the people, the marketing people, because otherwise they will not understand it fully, the possibilities. Fabrizio, to the question?
Well, I think it's a very good question and very powerful, because everything will be mobile first. You know, I mean, that's a buzzword we are always telling since years, but now, really, now it starts to be absolutely real. And of course, if I can buy it here with a click of a button, of course, this is powerful and it will happen. You know, why shall I go to the website or, I don't know, send a fax to order something? If I just on a click on a button on my mobile device, I can buy something, whatever, flight ticket. But also the croissant at the bakery next door, bang, done, you know. That's very powerful. So thanks a lot for this question.
So Mark, thank you for that question. So I think that wraps it up for this morning's session, gentlemen. Thomas, I would like to thank you very much for, first of all, being on the panel, but also thank you very much for your keynote presentation and sharing the thoughts of Twillio. Thank you for sponsoring. Alexei, a big thanks and a big hug to over there. So thank you very much for being here. Dario in the beautiful Firenze. So enjoy the weather, I know. And but thank you for being here and here live on stage together with the lovely audience. Fabrizio, thank you so much. And all of you out there, thank you so much, and stay tuned, because at 11:30 we move on and we go on in GCCM forever. See you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a great event in Berlin.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.